where two short-term rental bros come together.
What?
Not in that way, bro. There's a podcast of truly epic proportions where we talk about all things short-term rental and shoot the shit along the way. Welcome to the Co-Host Bros Podcast. Here are your hosts, Matt Codd and Austin Spitz.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Co-Host Bros. My name is Matt and I'm here with my co-host Austin, and today we're going to have an episode of bullshitting. That's what we're going to do today. We're going to bullshit, right Austin?
Yeah, let's do it. What's going on, everybody? Happy to be here. Let's do some of that.
So, anything new with you?
Yeah. So something new with me is this one sucks. So buckle up. My personal, one of my owned STR is I got a call from a guest yesterday, and basically they sent me a video of the house, and there was water coming through from the second story down into the bedroom, and they sent me a video of this, and I was like, oh man, this is, anytime this kind of situation happens, it's not good for anybody. So they were real understanding about it, but we had to get somebody in there ASAP. So yesterday I had to send a guest home, and they were very understanding. We have close to 100 reviews, pretty much all 5 stars. So this kind of stuff's not normal. But the water heater upstairs burst and had a leak, and it was coming through the walls and down to the subfloor. And anyways, I got my plumber buddy went over there on call. It was awesome. He was there and able to execute. Guest had to go home. We'll have to give him a full refund. But yeah, then we had to call whatever those folks are that are like emergency responding, like to water damage, that they're like, anyways, but the guy got there in like an hour. So it's going to look like it's going to be an insurance claim. It's going to be expensive. So luckily my deductible is pretty low. So I'll have to hit that, and then hopefully it's covered by insurance. But yeah, I think we always share our wins, and we talk about, look at me, I signed this client, look at me, this, and that, but we don't talk about the dark and ugly side of property management. And I got, smashed in the mouth yesterday and still going through that. They're ripping out the drywall, trying to get everything fixed. So I never told you about that, but you asked what's new. And
No. That's crazy. So
yeah,
that's always having good insurance, people.
yeah. And
that.
Absolutely. And then you want, obviously, this is not even what we plan to do here, but I do want to plug this. You need short-term rental specific insurance, and then you need whatever it's called. You need to make sure you have loss of income or whatever, something like that. So when something like this happens, I'm going to have to clear my calendar probably for the next month and find allocations to other properties for the guests. And I'm going to have some income coming in. So you need loss of income when something like this happens. So the insurance company will send you a check for, I guess, whatever the amount is, or the projected revenue you would receive. So while my house is getting repaired and I'm getting screwed over in this situation by bad luck, I'm hopefully getting a check. So I'll report back and see how all this plays out, and let all our listeners know, how it went down. But yeah, anyways, gray cloud over the episode. Right. Let's get back to the fun stuff. But yeah,
no, there's some good lessons. Good lessons. Service your water heater, folks. Change the anoid rod, drain and fill your water heater, which obviously was not happening on a regular basis. And sometimes you can't do it because if nobody's done it, then you can't get the thing to drain. But yeah, service your water heater. I know that from now on, Austin will be having his water heater serviced frequently. Was it in your attic? Is that where it was?
Yeah, it was just upstairs, and full transparency is like, I mean, it was just it's an older house. So like that water heater probably came with the house, and it was just, yeah, probably neglect, but I had the home inspected and everything. And it's almost to my point where it's like this, what the damage was should have been in the inspection report, which it wasn't. So I don't know. It's a mess, but yeah.
Yeah, I got to change my water heater at my personal residence too before that happens. Just thanks for reminding me that I have to lug my ass up to the attic and change the water heater, because I should. Because it's the right thing to do. So cool. That's crazy. Hopefully, it doesn't cost you a lot of money, but like you said, with the proper insurance, you're not going to be losing any income probably on that. Just a deductible, and hopefully, the deductible is low. Um, Sucks for your guest. Hopefully, you're able to rehome them into one of the houses that you co-host for, so then that way you can still make some money, right? And it'll all work out. And I'm assuming you'll let everybody know. So I wanted to talk about it. So we did discuss it a little bit on our Q&A, which may come out before or after this. I wanted to discuss what was going on with Vacasa. And if you guys don't know who Vacasa is one of the shittiest rental managers of all time. No, I don't know of all time. I'm sure there's worse. But it's a huge company. They manage a bunch of rentals, vacation rentals across the nation. Their average star rating is pretty low. They don't really care. And if you're looking for co-host deals, they're probably the best customers to target, especially if you know that you can improve it and you can show a dedicated plan to your clients on what you can do to improve it and what you could do that they are not doing. So that's what we're going to start with that. So the article is that Vacasa plans to lay off 320 workers, which is 5% of their workforce, and the COO is to leave. They're saying that the layoffs are designed to align the company's expected cost base with its 2024 strategic and operating priorities and continued achievement of adjusted EBITDA profitability in 2024 against a wide range of outcomes, Vacasa said, which to me, a wide range of outcomes is you're managing poorly and you're not making money. So what do you think on this, Austin?
Think that a time has come and there's going to be a shift in the industry. It's pretty much already here. It's already happening. This is operators like myself and you, people that do all the little things right and can execute at a high level, are coming along and picking off their um, clients very easily. I find it not as challenging as a sale. I mean, signing new clients always hard, but it's low hanging fruit to get these Vacasa people because they are such a big business that the little things fall through the cracks and they just can't execute like the local guy, like us, like we can. And we pay attention to the details that, you know, they're they're missing. So well, my take on it is with this, it's just, you know, they're decreasing their workforce, so their quality of work that they're already putting out is only going to go down. So if anything, to me, there's more blood in the water. And if you're a shark, you should be swimming in those waters and getting after this low hanging fruit. And I think it's great news. And next week we'll be calling a bunch of people from Vacasa. So
Yeah, I think they're losing people left and right. I don't think they're focusing on customer retention, and they're not focusing on guest satisfaction either. They actually, it looks like they posted a 76.5 million fourth quarter loss. Um, and that's an exorbitant amount of money. That's you're bleeding hands over fists on that. I mean, and that's probably because a lot of clients are shifting away from them. Yeah, some of them are probably shifting from Vacasa to Evolve, thinking it's going to be better. Well, you got to Evolve, you're going to do a lot more work. I'll tell you that, but it's not going to help you. But yeah, there's a lot of shifts to other property managers who care. I mean, it's not even like you say, the execution and things like that. Yeah, the execution is there, but really all that it comes down to is that the person that's helping you, the person that's co-hosting for you, the person that's running your property actually cares about the guest, actually cares what happens and cares about your property, because Vacasa doesn't care. Like, why would they care? It's not their property. All they want to see is how much money they're getting from you every month. And they don't even care about that either. They just want to get the money, so they'll lower the price as low as possible. They're not trying to make you any money. They're not doing those kinds of things. They're trying to, right now, they're trying to stay afloat and keep their money. So, I mean, yeah, it's should be pretty easy to sell. I mean, at this point, especially if you explain like, hey, look, the boat on Vacasa's leaving, and and this is their average performance, and this is what's going on. They're laying off people, so you think that your house is going to get as much of attention, more attention next year than it is this year? Like, it's not. If you want more attention, you need to go with me, right? Because I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to do what I can do to get you bookings. Because if I get you bookings, I win too. I make money too. And we're in this. We're in this to do this. We're not in this to have 3,000 listings and just sit there at the top and like on the COO. Which, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned the COO of Vacasa is leaving as well with that announcement. I think I missed that. But yeah, so the coup's out. And that just tells you they're going to replace him or her, and strategically probably lay people off and cut things. But the problem you have is we're in a service industry, right? You're in a service industry and you're going to cut service. So how is that going to work out for you, right? You're going to have the people that are scared to leave and don't want to leave and whatnot, or the people that aren't making a ton, and it's really not the kind of fruit that people are chasing off the tree, right? Because I like the high earning ones, and but yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to see. I still want to say I hope we're not gearing toward a bloodbath out there next year, for the rest of the year and into 2025 with Vacasa. Because there are people that work there, so I do feel I feel bad for them. But if they're actually good operators, they need to buckle down and study and branch out on their own, and get out from under that umbrella, right?
Yeah, I think it's good. It's a good thing because I think that's kind of what true capitalism is then now you have a bunch of mom and pop operators, the small business person that doesn't answer to shareholders, you know doesn't live and die by profits necessarily, coming in and competing. And I think it's more fun that way. I also think that Vacasa is probably, while they're not doing well, I think that they're not going to go down without a fight. So I think my prediction is, and I've talked to other people about this, I think there will be maybe some changes in regulations and certain things, like people like me, where they may try and not necessarily come after us, but lobby for changes. And like, they're getting picked off by all these small co-hosts. Well, there might be some regulations that come in that they're pushing for to try and stop the bleeding. So who knows what they'll do. There might be some pushback. I don't think they're going to go down without a fight. But yeah, all basically to say everything you said, I don't think everything's really trending in a positive direction for them. So I'm using it to my advantage. I know you are. So I think it's just like, it's a no brainer. I haven't met a Vacasa client that I can't help. Like, it's like, dude, I'm going to make you more money. Your property is going to be better taken care of. My cleaning crew is better. We have better eyes on your property. I mean, how much time do you have? I could go all day. So when I talk to people, it's like a no brainer. The only kind of pushback that's hard right now is that they're licking their wounds from last year, and their calendar's filling up, at least in my market, for summertime. So they're kind of like, oh, well, maybe it's all good again because my calendar's full. I don't want to switch right now. And my thing is like, hey, you're behind the curve by like 20, 30, 40 grand, whatever the case may be. I'm like, yeah, I can't afford to switch right now. Like, you can't afford to keep operating the way you're operating. I mean, so that's the point. It doesn't matter with your summer bookings. We'll get that filled back up. It's easy money. But that's kind of one of the pushbacks now. It's an odd time to be calling on people, but you still always have to be doing that. So I think that's a tough, that is somewhat, it's just an objection, it's just something you have to overcome. So their calendars are filling up. It's much difficult for them to be willing to cancel now that they see all this potential revenue coming in. But that's market specific too. It's summertime out over here, so it's money time.
Yeah, it's funny about Vacasa is that it goes full circle. So if you spend all your time being, let's just say you're a mediocre operator, but you go and get as many contracts as you can, and you have 200, 300 units, just as many contracts you can, guess what? And you stole them off from Vacasa, more than likely Vacasa is going to come back and buy them from you. They'll buy your company, right? And that's a lot of how they got a lot of short-term rentals, because they purchased other co-host companies, right, or other management companies, and purchased those contracts. I think once you scale to a certain part, a certain point, it's really hard to be a good operator unless you have great systems in place, and you have good quality checks, and you have, operations managers and things like that, and to where you're actually building it like a business. Um, but it's also easy to get cancer inside your organization and nobody cares. So it's kind of funny. So I don't know. You were at the Short Term Wealth Conference, but I don't know if you went to the breakout where they were talking about WeWork. Were you in that breakout? So there's actually a documentary on it on Hulu and I think on Apple TV. Um, but WeWork was kind of like kind of before Airbnb. I don't know exactly what time frame it was, but they would take commercial space, furnish the commercial space, rent out the commercial space as separate offices and things like that, to where, as business, you didn't have to lease it, right? You could just go rent it out, and you could segregate that commercial space and make more money. And it was kind of like a harmonious office environment with a bunch of different collectives of businesses together. And I guess they raised a whole bunch of money. The moral of the story, guy raised a whole bunch of money and eventually crashed and burned. Like raised a whole bunch of money, pretty much acted like he was like the god of everything, spent a ton of money on WeWork parties and this and that. But you'd have to, I can't tell the story as good as the guy who told the story during the Short Term Rental Wealth Conference. It was really good. But there are also stuff on that. And I feel like that's like Vacasa. They ramped up so big and bought so many contracts and bought all these little mom and pops out. And then now it's like they're trying to hang on. They're like Wile E. Coyote who jumped off the cliff and trying to climb his way back up the cliff because he was chasing the Roadrunner. And I think I think it's going to take them a little while to level out. They're going to lose a lot of clients and level out. The real question is are they going to do the same thing? So if it comes to 2026 and they cut a lot of people and they level out, and then all of a sudden they're like, you have 100 doors and they're like, hey, can we buy your contracts at 30 grand a piece or whatever the case may be, right? Now they're doing the same thing they were doing, right? So you're going to be in that same situation again, because we all know that the markets are going to change. There's going to be more regulation. There's going to be, ups and downs. There's going to be years where people will go. We'll never see COVID again, like that kind of year, unless there's another kind of COVID event. But honestly, I think if there's some kind of COVID event, I think there'll be a little less compliance in that. Personally, that's just my opinion, and not to no political or anything, but I'm just saying that I think we'll see a difference, but you're not going to see that kind of stuff like you did in the vacation rental market at that time. Because once everybody got out, they were like, let's go. I want to go to Airbnb. I want to go have vacation. I want to do this. I want to do that. I think that negative press does affect us, no matter whose it is. Even if it's Vacasa's negative press, I think it affects us, because it's just like the same thing as like I tell everybody, like I'm a short-term rental operator. Everyone's like, what's that? Oh, I have Airbnbs. Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about, right? So I think that it affects us negatively regardless of the press that comes out anywhere. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, it's
For
funny
sure.
when you say that, because the same thing happens to me when I'm talking to people. I always use STR, and I forget that not everybody speaks our language. So it's like, what's an STR? Ah, short-term rental. Oh, well, what's a short-term rental? Okay, Airbnb. Oh, okay.
I
I
know.
try, and I cringe at it because I don't think that I'm very grateful for Airbnb, but I don't want to refer to my business as an Airbnb business. It's cringy. Like we're building management
Yeah.
companies and we're building, co-hosting brands, and we're not building Airbnb's business. So much respect. Thank you for the amazing platform and opportunity to make a lot of money off through you, but you don't deserve for my business to be called an Airbnb business. So I like to call it, at least, like I say, manage vacation rentals. That's what I like to
Yeah.
say. It's much easier to say it that way. So I think, yeah, it's always like people don't understand the lingo. So anyways, but that, and then also I wanted to revisit what you're saying, like how Vacasa comes in and they buy all these smaller property management companies. They eat up the competition, and it's a good and bad thing, right? Like it depends on it all comes down to what your end goal is. Like it's great to have someone like Vacasa, like you say, Maybe you have 100 doors and they're going to pay 30,000 per door. That's $3 million. So like you spend a decade or however long building up this man. I mean, probably longer, definitely longer, but you build up this company and it's like, maybe that was your end goal. Like maybe your goal was to build a business and sell and exit at 3 million. So I would say, well, then Vacasa needs to be your best friend. Okay. You need to be cheering for them because you want somebody. And there's other people. There's not necessarily Vacasa is going to come in and buy you out, but there might be, the guy with 1,000 units, he'll come in and buy you out. So it all depends on what your goal is. And, if you build a management company that's that big and you're like, yeah, if I can sell at 3 million, I'm good. Cause it's also at the end of the day, building and owning a business is just as important as, well, more important than something like a retirement vehicle, like buying real estate or even a 401k. I mean, whatever that is. But, you know, building a business and owning a business that's actually sellable at the end of the day is tremendously valuable.
Well, you're a huge business guy, right? We were talking about the shirt you're wearing right now. It says real business owners, you said, I think.
Yeah, that's my mastermind group. This is my second business actually. So I had a previous business before this, and I mean, it was in my early 20s. I started it. It was wildly successful, but I sold it, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that lifestyle anymore. I didn't like the business we were in, but it was yeah. I try to keep everything very entrepreneurial focused. So, like I've mentioned before, I like to have a group of short-term rental operators, and then I have a bunch of buddies that just are general entrepreneurs, business owners, plumbing companies, electrician companies, a lot of blue collar stuff that align in they align in the industry that we're in. And I have a lot of friends that do stuff like that. So I think the perfect balance is have a group like your mastermind group and my mastermind group where it's specifically short term rentals where you can sharpen your saw there. And then I think you also need to be involved with other business owners that are general entrepreneurship that are specifically focused on growing a business and building a brand. And then you have your people over here that are specified to your industry. So I think you mash the two of those and it's a great combination of a network and resources and what you can really do to fast track to your own success and growing your business. So that's my take on that.
Did you not like the business you used to have?
No, so I'll tell all the listeners what I had.
Am I getting too personal? That's
No,
why.
no, I don't care. I sold it, so it's all good. I mean,
Okay.
it was good enough to exit it, and somebody wanted to pay us for it. So, anyways, it's we had a party bus company, and what it was is basically transportation for college kids. So, my first job out of college, my W-2 job, I worked in actually College Station. So I was living pretty gritty. I was sleeping with, in a house with 5 other dudes, kind of extended frat life, if you will. But my brother and we started a business, and what we would do is we had party buses, and what we would do is just get the contracts. My brother was in a fraternity, so we would get the contracts of kind of like all the fraternity business, and we would cater to them and their events. And we had it was a greasy, raunchy, bus venture, but I mean we were booked every weekend, months out. I learned a lot of lessons from it. I learned, how to build a brand and how to build a business, because it was almost to the point where, like, this is not my ego talking, but if you walked around Texas A&M campus and you mentioned, our brand, then everybody would be like, yeah, I know that business is awesome. And we ended up selling it. We probably is one of those things we could have probably taken to the moon if we would have raised our prices, got a few more buses,
Yeah.
expanded. It was too much liability, and it was just a bad quality of life that I was living at that time. So I was just like, I would figure something else out. So then I, bought my first short-term rental a few years later, and I was like, okay, well, I already have this psycho addictive personality that whenever I figure out something I'm going to do, I'm going to go all in. So it ended up leading me to this. But yeah, that was the previous venture. It was fun. It was a great learning experience.
No, that's cool. I could think of a million different ways to spin off of that. How you could have grown that, and I can see also too the how uh, I don't want to say negativity. It's not the word I'm really looking for, but how that kind of energy in your life affects you as your growth as a person, right? Because you're trying to grow as a person. You weren't trying to be that frat kid, and that kind of had you stuck there. Um, which is fantastic. And they still do party buses to this day. I see them come from Houston to Dallas all the time, and normally is geared more toward girls trips and things like that. But no, yeah, good business. Especially, I think that it was what the market was missing in the Texas area, right? Because we're not Nashville. We're not like, everybody comes to visit. Let's party bus. But we're really far away from big towns. So who doesn't want to take a party bus, 4 hours to Dallas, right? If you're going to Dallas from Houston or whatnot. So that's pretty cool. And I see how it correlates together, right? It's very impressive. You want to tell us how much you sold it for? No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to tell us. But yeah,
I'd rather not, just because I'd be too embarrassed of like how low the figure was versus if I would have scaled it, went to another college town. I don't know, man. The liability was too much with it. It's just transportation, and then it's like I had paid drivers, and the drivers would, be out taking people home from the bars that booked for their birthday or whatever, and then they're taking them home at like 3 a.m, and Sally's in the back throwing up, and then I got to wake up the next day, go to the carpet cleaning guy, charge them. It's just like in a lot of ways, though, it does transfer over into the short-term rental space, dealing
yeah,
with those problems. I mean, I think if you want to be an entrepreneur, the problems are unavoidable. It's just the different kind of problems you'll deal with at different levels. So yeah, but yeah, it wasn't long term what I want to do. I was like, okay, I just reached a point where I was like, I'm gonna be like the transportation party bus guy, or I'll just sell it now and figure out something else to do. And it's funny because when I hear Bill Faith talk, also plug, I don't know if this episode is going to drop before his visit, but he is coming to the Houston short term rental meetup on the 27th. I'm not taking credit for that. I didn't facilitate that. My boy Matt did. So props to him. But anyways, what Bill talks about sometimes when he's on stage or whenever he's speaking, he previously owned, I'm sure you know, like a limousines type company. And yeah, so I can relate to a lot about what he says. And I'll probably end up talking to him about it when at our event on Wednesday. But I don't know where I was going with it. But yeah, he's similar background there.
yeah, we're not dropping before Wednesday. Not this one. We already have something in the queue. We have Andrew White's episode dropping on Wednesday. But so I do post all the time about the meetup on March 27th. So if you didn't come, you're fucking going to miss out. And we'll probably do an episode of talking about it, how much of a good time we had. But we do a meetup in the Houston area every month, last Wednesday, every month. So yeah, it's great. If you don't know where it is, the Brass Tap in Richmond, Texas, for now, until we blow the motherfucker up. But anyway, yeah, no, that's what it reminded me of when you were telling me about the other business, because I was thinking like, yeah, Bill has like 33. He's done like 33 startups or something, some astronomical amount. I couldn't imagine doing that many businesses in that much time. Or even building up and selling or failing that many businesses either way. Like, it's just, to me, that's crazy. But I think it's good that you were in that space, because it totally directly correlates to the problems you have now. And now it's probably like, oh, this happened. You're like, okay, cool. Clean it up, send them a charge, like whatever. Like, nothing phases you, right? And I know, like, my W-2, like, people are like, oh, well, this is going on. That's like, nothing phases me because I've already been hit with all of it. Like, I'm not even like, well, you're not stressed out. You don't ever stress out. Why would I stress out? I already know the solution. Doesn't matter. I've had this problem before. Cool. No big deal. Like, I can see how you can correlate that over. So that's cool. That's really cool. That's something new I learned about you.
Yeah, and I think as time goes on, I think exactly what you said, and it's just like you start to develop a stress level, and it kind of just sucks, but at the same time, it makes you stronger, because it's like if you didn't have your short-term rental headaches, then work would be your stress, and this whatever's happening at your job, you're going to be like, man, this is stressful. But now you're like, no, I've dealt with real stress over here. Homeboy over here can't handle it because he just doesn't know how to deal with it. But I've gone through this threshold and built up this tougher exterior that it's like, okay, now as I continue to scale, I get more and more stressed, and the things that used to stress me out and make me lose sleep are now very small, and now I have bigger problems. And then at some point, the goal is that those problems will be smaller, and I'll have bigger problems, right? So
Yeah. It's like a jack of all trades, master of none. So You once you feel like your mastery of something, then you kind of move on to the next thing, you know?
Yeah, I think it's hard too because it's like there's always something, and it's like as an entrepreneur, I feel like you have to be locked in on one thing for a very long time and go all in on one thing because as soon as you switch and try and do something else, you start at the bottom at ground zero again. It's like my buddy was calling me the other day that has a moving company. And he's just getting me like juice. My juice is flowing. He's like taking over his parents' outdated moving company. I'm like, damn, dude, there's so much you could do. I'm like, man, dude, I kind of want to get involved in this. But I'm like, no, man, stay the course. Don't have shiny object syndrome because whenever you have that, it's not a good long-term result because the more you pivot, the less amount of time you spend in the game. And I don't know. I just think sticking with one craft and being the best that you can be at it over a long period of time, you're gonna win. You're gonna be better off winning that way. That's my take. What have I done? Who knows? But that's the way I view it.
Yeah, okay. So you just brought me. I was going to do a co-host tip of the week. And I had wrote it down when I was at work uh, about action. So now that we're having the conversation, right at this point, so it's like really action. The more action you take in the same craft that you're in, the more that it compounds, whether you can see it or not, which you can't see it, right? So we can't see who's listening to this podcast. We can't see who subscribes to this podcast. We just know how many times it was listened to and how many times each episode is listened to. So, and as an example, is that okay? I keep posting things on social media, and Austin keeps posting things on social media, and we keep putting out episodes, and we keep having these conversations and bullshitting and all these things, and you like us, hopefully, and you want me to hear me say fuck and all these cool things, right? Because I'm cool. Don't worry about it. Don't tell your mom. Anyway, so over time, as we continue to do this, it'll compound, and we won't know it's compounding, right? And then at some point, something will happen where it bursts and you'll see the fruits of the labor. So for this podcast, I don't know what the fruits of the labor is. I think that it's really kind of just helps us really mastermind with other people and be able to record it so you can listen and learn and that we can listen and learn. And I really just think it kind of helps us be able to bounce off each other. But action, if you take action in anything over and over and over again, eventually you'll get a reaction. It takes time. It's the same thing in the corporate world. I I have a profession where I go to a lot of shitty places that are ran terribly, and I have to go fix those things. So I talk to it about as if you're pushing a snowball up a hill and you continuously push a snowball up a hill and it's hard to do. And once you get the snowball to the top of the hill, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's really what action is about, right? So action is getting that ball over that hump. And then once you hit that hump and you go down that hill, it just gets bigger and bigger. Like it just compounds and compounds and compounds and compounds. It's like compound interest. It just compounds. And next thing you know, you're like, holy shit, like I'm the man. I had no idea, right? So that's where I think action what action is, at least to me. So
Yeah. I agree. I think that it's the results are compounded and I've for full transparency, haven't been in this too long, but the results show, but they don't show in days, they don't show in weeks, they don't show in months. Results show in years and eventually decades. And then you can really see the difference. It's like when you're starting like a workout or exercise journey that I went on over like the last 2 years, you go to the gym every day, but you're not going to notice the results until like months. So I compare it to that. And then just to piggyback off kind of what you said is like it taking a long time. And a lot of entrepreneurs refer to this as a hockey stick, right? So a graph in the shape of a hockey stick. It's like it starts out flat and it's all that legwork you're putting in. And then at some point, there's like a pivot point and it just hockey sticks upwards. So I feel like that tends to happen in business, but you have to get those few licks out of the way. You got to get punched at the beginning, and yeah, and then
right,
eventually
yeah,
you'll hit it.
yeah, and like you said, over years and stuff like that. Really, it's like it's the effort too. So you can compound something in 6 months if you wanted to, but it's I mean, it's the amount of effort you put in. It's the amount of time you take to learn. It's the amount of stuff that you did. It's the same thing. Like we talked about it, the meetup thing. I put a lot of effort into the meetup. I put a lot of effort to get people engaged in the first one, and we had a lot of people show up, right? And that effort already has paid off because now we have Bill coming, right? Which is going to be epic. And now what this creates, at least the way I look at it, is that creates FOMO for other people who are influencers in the short-term rental space to want to come out, right? So the more, and then it creates FOMO for the people listening who don't get to hear this episode until after it happened, and they're like, "Fuck, I wanted to go. I should have went." So that creates more stuff. So that compounds over time, right? So over time, that'll compound, and who knows where it will lead. It could lead to anything. Like the more you get around other people that are doing the same thing, talk to people, it's hard. I'm gonna tell y'all, it's hard. It's hard to find someone in your community that's doing the same thing. Your neighbors aren't doing what you're doing. Your friends aren't doing what you're doing. And if they are, good for you. And if they're not, you need to find a way to find people who are involved in the space so that you can have conversations, bounce stuff off people, mastermind it together, do all these kinds of things. Even if you have to pay, I had to pay. I paid to join a mastermind system because I had to, because I didn't have anybody around me that I could talk to besides my wife about it. So that didn't help us. I felt like I was never going to go anywhere else to another level without doing those things. That's how I felt personally, because you have to find a tribe, right? And I'm not trying to sell you anything. Be honestly, you want to be part of my tribe, go ahead and DM me. We can talk, whatever, doesn't matter. I don't mind helping people, love helping people. It's fun. And I'm sure Austin's the same way, but it's hard at first when you don't know anybody who's doing it, right? Am I wrong, Austin?
Yeah, no, that's true. I think business doesn't get done behind a computer. Business is done by shaking people's hands, meeting people, and I think true entrepreneurs. There's no shame in the game. Like the people that are operating, even at the highest level, they pay for their friends. It is what it is. I mean, they're in groups. They pay for these groups, and the ROI on the networking and the relationships and the business deals that come from this, and the learning experience for paying a monthly fee to be surrounded by these people, it's massive. Like it's just an investment into your network, and it's just a business expense. I couldn't agree more. You have to be around these people that are trying to execute and get to the next level. Because if you try and do it all yourself, it's just not gonna. It's not gonna work.
Right. It helps propel you to the next level. So it's hard though. It is hard, especially when you don't know. I mean, like when we talked, you were like, "Oh, you have so many systems in place. How many freaking houses do you have?" And I have one. I'm lame. I have one, but I take the time to listen, to compound the knowledge. I take the time to test it. I take the time to learn all these things, because once I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, I don't want to be in a situation where I have to have a learning curve. I want to know what the fuck I'm doing immediately, because that's just how I am. I'm that kind of person. Like, I want to know how I'm going to handle this situation when this arises. Now, other things might happen here and there that I don't know about, but other than that, making sure everything's streamlined and good to go and all this stuff, I'm not going to fail at that, because I'm going to make sure that I'm 100% ready to tackle it. Right. So it's like studying for an exam, which I wasn't a good studier. I wasn't good in school. FYI, everybody. Terrible. But yeah, that's the way I look at it, though. Like, I want to feel like I'm mastery before I have so many that I don't want to get mastery along the way. I like to do other things along the way, like this podcast right now, just bullshitting it along the way. We did not script any of this, by the way. We're just fucking talking. But yeah, so it's just how I look at it.
It's authentic. That's what we're trying to be here. We're trying to give you the real. But anyways,
Right.
yeah, that's pretty much all I got. Anything else you want to touch on before we head out of here?
So there is one more article that I saw that and then we'll get going, because I do have to go to German Fest with the family in Tumble today, apparently, and I forgot. And someone keeps opening the door and popping in. So Verbo actually stopped taking Hugheslit reservation rentals after complaints of cancellations, which if you don't know what Hugheslit is, it's Houzlet. It's like a Vacasa, it's smaller, but they stopped taking them because people's reservations were getting canceled. And that just brings me to, the integration with Verbo in general is just terrible. I mean, we talked about that a little bit on a different episode. So this man booked something. A retired school principal booked something, and it was a condo in Sarasota, Florida, for January and February. They paid a $5,700 deposit plus the first month's rent plus a fee of $800 to Verbo. And when they got there, the reservation was canceled. And all Verbo did was give them a listing of where else they could go. And that they refund their $795 fee. Houslet agreed to process the $5,700 deposit, but never did. So after some digging, the person who booked it, his name is Frank, found out the listing was fake on Verbo. What do you think about that?
I don't really know who this Hugheslet, who the hell they are, but sounds like Frank got fucked. That's what it sounds like. I don't know.
It
Sounds like
it did.
Frank learned a lesson to not use Hugheslet anymore. But I don't know.
Yeah, so it took ABC to ask Verbo and Hugheslet about Frank and Karen's refund, and the credit card company actually reversed it. So it took the news to make the credit card company reverse it, and pretty much Verbo and Hugheslet didn't do shit. So one, how are we getting fake listings on a Verbo account? Like, why aren't we asking? We especially when it comes to vacation rentals, you should be asking. They can ask you for any kind of documentation, right? Airbnb, if they wanted to, they can ask me for my escrow papers to show that I bought the house, or show me the other person's escrow paper, the deed, or whatever the case may be. How come a big company like Verbo is not validating that these listings are accurate, or even Hugheslet? You when you take on a new listing, you validate that your listing is accurate, right? You go to the house, right? Or whatever, you get information from the owner. So I think that's crazy. That stuff. That's what's going to create standardization too. It affects the customer. It does. It constantly going to affect the customers, and affecting the customers affects us because they're going to think that we're shitty too, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think it's just comes down to me. It's just I can control what Austin can control and try not to lose too much sleep over, what everybody else is doing. But interesting story there.
yeah, it's crazy. I'd be pissed. I definitely would have went to ABC too. So, or I would have had some choice words, one or the other. But yeah. So I guess we don't really have much on that either today. So just keep us updated with your house and the water. We're gonna shorten out the episode today because we got a couple things we need to do. Like I said, I got to go to German Fest and drink some beer. Have a good time. But we appreciate y'all listening. We hope that you follow us and like us, share, compound that action that we're taking, and we really appreciate it. And hopefully we hit the nail on the head. That's the new catchphrase, the nail on the head. Is that it?
Yeah. No, I don't know which one's the proper term anymore because we keep switching it with the wrong one with the right one. So
On purpose too.
hit the nail on the head is the right one, but we say hit the
No,
head
no,
on
no.
the nail.
Hit the head on the nail is the right one. We say hit the nail on the head,
No, no,
right?
no, no. I don't think
Oh,
we
we
can.
we gotta. Okay, so we have to Google this before we leave because we don't really know the answer. Let's see. We're
Hit the
gonna
nail.
Google
You hit the
this
nail.
up.
You hit the term is hit the nail on the head, and then you said hit the head on the nail.
Hit the head on the nail. If you think someone has hit the nail on the head, you think they're exactly right about something. And we hit. I can't believe that we just went for that for like a whole minute and a half, and we don't know what the fuck we're talking about.
Yeah, I think the ADD for both of us is starting to wander. So
Oh, that's good. Let the ADD add up. Like, subscribe, follow us, co-host bros on all social media channels. We appreciate y'all listening, and thank you so much. Have a great day.
peace.
The Co-Host Bros Podcast.